Alright guys, I thought I'd make a walk around video of my main car here, my Olds 98, 1983. I already did a full review video on this, about 43 minutes long, but I foolishly decided to record that at sunset, so by the time the video was done, it was like nighttime and the visibility was crappy. So you couldn't really see what I was doing. That was obnoxious. You couldn't really see what I was doing very well, and it kind of sucked, so I figured I'd do this little walk around video and kind of tell you about the history of the car and all that kind of stuff, and show you some stuff with it. And before you say anything, I know these hubcaps look stupid. They're not for this car. The only reason they're on there is because this car, in the summertime, I run white wall tires on it, and they're quite old. They actually have tubes in them because of how old they are. And they don't have very good traction anymore, so I bought these winter tires for it. And the original hubcaps to the car didn't look right without the white walls, so I went to a truck stop and bought these hubcaps for like 35 bucks at a 4-pack, and just threw them on there so it wouldn't just have steel wheels, because steel wheels look uglier than shit, and I just didn't want to have just steel wheels with black walls. It looks too crappy, so I needed to put something on there. So yeah, it looks kind of weird, but it looks better than it would with nothing on there instead, at least to me. So this is a 1983 Oldsmobile 98 Regency. That is the up-level package for these cars. They had the 98 base, 98 Regency, and 98 Regency Brougham. The Brougham was a fully loaded car. Regency was anything in between base and fully loaded, and base was just base. You didn't get any of the luxury features. It was just the car. It is a 1983. A lot of people who watch my videos keep trying to tell me it's an 81 because of the egg crate grill here. But let me tell you something about this. So 81 had this grill. 82 had kind of a split piece grill where the actual front fascia came down here in the middle, and there were two aluminum inserts that went on either side for the grill. And 1983 and 84 had a kind of a wire mesh looking one, kind of like what you'd see on a Pontiac or a Chevy. So that's what this one should have, but the previous owner told me that his brother got in a minor fender bender with this car, and that's where this dent here came from, and they had to replace some pieces on the front of the car, and you can kind of see where the grill doesn't line up perfect with body lines and stuff on this side, and it does on this side. That's par for the course, I guess. They probably replaced it, probably went to the junkyard. They found this grill. It fit in there instead of the wire mesh one, and they put it in. It's not that big of a deal, but I assure you this is an 83 model. It says it on the title. And it's also got some interior things that give it away as being an 83 model, not an 81 model, which I will get to. But as far as the outside of the car goes, when I got it, the car was, I found it at a farmer's house, old farmer's house, handicapped, couldn't drive anymore. It was his brother's car. He bought it brand new when he worked at the Oldsmobile dealership in 1983. He bought the car, drove it, you know, all that kind of fun stuff, and then eventually he gave it to his brother before his brother ended up being in a car accident and could no longer walk or drive, for that matter. And the car sat next to his barn for 13 years since about oh wow, it was like 2008, I think, when it was parked, and I bought this car in 2020. So it sat for about 13 years, what I was told. All the tires had flat spots on it. The underside was not doing so hot. Exhaust was dragging on the ground. One of the front coil springs was broken. The fuel tank only had one strap on it, and the tank was leaking. It had the trim for the doors there was hanging off and flapping in the wind as I drove it. It had one working headlight. It had a ton of electrical issues, and most noticeably, the paint, the clear coat, was entirely faded off it. The car had no shine to it left whatsoever. So what I did is I buffed off the paint, which actually worked very well. I mean, it's got the hood didn't bring back any shine on the hood or the trunk, but the actual side of the body was restored beautifully, fantastically. I can't believe how well that it worked. There is a couple of dings and scratches here and there that couldn't be helped. Some rust spots that I sanded off initially and sprayed over with touch-up paint, which have since started to rust through. And this weirdness, there's a bunch of rust that was forming around the mirrors. The guy who sold me the car said his brother said, for some reason, every single batch, or every single car in the batch that this car arrived with on the dealer, or on the dealer's lot, had that problem. It started happening within years, a couple years of purchasing the cars, or the cars being on the road. The mirrors started to rust like this. So I don't know if it was some kind of production error or what, but I just sanded it off best I could and sprayed it over with black primer, flat black primer, because I wasn't going to try and touch-up paint that, because it wouldn't look right anyway, because this painted pinstripe here would get covered up by touch-up paint. So I just figured, screw it, we're putting it on black. It's not going to look right anyway, so it might as well not be done with very high effort. Here's some of that touch-up paint in the door I told you about that has since started to rust through and actually caused there to be this kind of a weird, rusty sheen on the next door over, which is interesting that transferred like that, because this here's got this aluminum door strip, impact strip for when you open your door, so it won't ding other people's cars or damage your car. It's weird that bypassed that, because that's kind of separating that, so it's interesting that happened. There's more of that touch-up paint there, more back here. It's been 3 years. It started to rust through already, so I think that's fair. I'm not going to try and go over it again. It's just going to be the way that it is. A lot of the paint on like the body fillers here, bumper fillers, which are actually quite supple yet. They haven't cracked. This one's cracking here, and it kind of disintegrated in the bottom, but they're in better shape than most cars like this that have been sitting. Most GMs, those just disintegrate and they're just gone, and you have this big gap in between the front bumper, or rear bumper in this case, and the back of the car. But they were kind of this blackish color. The paint kind of faded off all of them, so I just took my touch-up paint and sprayed over everything. I didn't prime it, I didn't prep it, I didn't do any of that. I just sprayed over it after I cleaned it with a rag. So obviously the paint's not sticking, it's flaking off, but it is what it is. It's just a daily driver, you know. What happened here was a mix-up at the paint shop, which I realized halfway through doing this, and just decided I've already started, so I might as well finish. Basically, on the trunk, for whatever reason, this whole back end of this car looked like this when I got it. This is the primer, original primer, underneath the paint. I don't know why just this section looked like that, but this looked horrible. So I had to do something about it. So I went to our local paint mixer, Elmer's paint mixer, and got some paint mixed up for this color, which is called it was Buick Olds Pontiac Light Briar Brown Metallic. And they mixed it up, and they gave it to me, and I sanded all this off, prepped it, wet sanded it, primed it up, started spraying this light briar brown metallic, right? And I started to notice it's a bit darker than it should be. But then again, the paint's still wet, so maybe it'll dry differently. After the first coat dried, and it started having this copperish color, I realized something wasn't right. So I looked it up. Apparently, Chevy also had light briar brown metallic, and they called it light briar brown metallic, but it's not this color. It's this color. So I just decided, whatever, I'll just finish painting it, and I'm just gonna have a different color trunk. That's fine. Few people notice it. I've had a couple people ask about it, but very few people even care. And it's already starting to peel away with the sun and the elements. So I don't care that much. There's more of that body filler that just kind of disintegrates. This is happening from the sun. It was not that bad when I got the car, but it's progressively been getting worse. Vinyl top's ruined from the sun. Then again, I don't really care. It's not peeling off yet. It's still got some like squishiness to it. It's not hard, it's not peeling, it's not like my Mercury where it's just disintegrating off every time I drive it. It's got scratches like that along the body. Can't buff that out, that's into the paint. Paint kind of coming off here with the rust bubbling up around the marker light. All this trim was in the trunk when I got the car, so I stuck it back on, and there's certain spots where it's not quite perfect, like right there, and right up here. This was actually not in the trunk. This one was dangling off the car. It was stuck up here yet, but back here it was just flopping around in the wind, so I put it back up. Adhesive, used adhesive, trim adhesive, got it back up. There's that mirror again on this side. One isolated spot of rust right there. I don't know why. It's like the metal's super thin down here, but then up here it's thick again. I don't know what happened there. This body filler is actually the best on the whole car. It's still original color. I didn't paint that one. Painted these ones up here. As you can see, the paint's already coming off of it again. Once again, I don't really care about that. As far as body goes, that's about it. It does have, now let me tell you something. A lot of people ask me, why do you drive these cars in the winter? Why don't you put them away? Why don't you drive some beater in the winter? Why do you drive any of these cars in the winter? Not particularly just this one, but any of my cars. I only drive cars like this, old cars. And the reason for that is that even if I were to put all the work into putting a new vinyl top on this, fixing all these little rust spots, getting new trim, painting it over again to fix these scratches here and there, this car's got 1 foot in the grave because of this. Right there. You see that? Those are some holes in the frame. There's nothing you can do about that. I could weld up a patch for it, but this here spot, these 3 spots here, are the only spots in the whole frame that look like this. The rest of it's solid. So it's not that big of a deal. But again, with the condition of the rest of the car, the amount of work I'd have to put into a car to restore it with a shot frame is not worth it to me. And on top of all that, these cars aren't collector's items. They're just old cars. Nobody wants these. I've never even seen another one of these in real life. I've seen them only on YouTube and stuff like that, but in real life, in person, I've never even seen another Olds 98 of this generation. So it's not that big of a deal to me. They're just cars to me. They're not some kind of fancy collector's item. It's just an old car. And in another few years, the rust is going to get so bad where it's just going to look like I drove it right out of the junkyard. It kind of already looks like that, but it's really going to look like that in a couple years. I'll also show you something here with the doors. Doors are shot. See that? There ain't nothing left. The door is supposed to come down past here. This is that little plastic or little aluminum trim on the bottom there, that little aluminum strip. Doors are shot. There ain't nothing left of this. Look at that. Worse on the other side. Actually, it's not worse on the other side, it's better, but yeah, I mean, you get the idea. Look at that. Door's just disintegrating. Every time I shut the door, I hear little pieces of rust falling on the ground. It's not worth saving. It's an old car. It's seen its time. There it is again. It's cooked. So I just drive it until it's undrivable. Whether the transmission blows up, engine blows up, some catastrophic thing happens to the body or frame, whatever ends up being, that'll be the end of the car, and I gotta get a new one or a different one. I don't buy new cars. But other than that, let's get to some of the interior stuff. You see the exterior, it's got its fair share of dings and scratches and quirks, but overall, I mean, you look at it from all the way back here, shit, man, it's like a brand new car. But let's get to the interior stuff here. So first of all, See that steering wheel? If you look up 1981 Oldsmobile 98, you had a different steering wheel than this. You had the Oldsmobile styled one that has like the two big wings here, and the horn pad is up on top. This steering wheel was introduced in 1982. So only 82 and up models have this steering wheel. So all y'all who keep saying this is an 81, this is not a 1981 Oldsmobile. You take one look at this steering wheel and you can tell me at least it's a 1982. But this one is an 83. Horn buttons are over here. This one doesn't work. That one does. It has cruise control, but it no longer works because I deleted the computer on this car. It used to have computerized engine controls, computer command control, feedback carburetor system. That's what they called it. It was shit, so I got rid of it after about a year of trying to mess with it and finick with it and try to get it to work right. Couldn't ever get it to work right, so I just decided eventually, you know what, we're getting rid of it. And the car's been great ever since. Manual headlights are not automatic. I didn't get Sentinel. It's got a gauge package. Very rare for these cars. I don't think the 88 offered it. It was only on the 98. And very few people got it. I've never seen it on any other car, online, on YouTube, on anything. I've never heard of anybody having it, but it's not aftermarket. That is a factory gauge package. If you look at the brochure for these cars, that's in there. You could get that. It did have automatic climate control on it, air conditioning car. The reason I say did have is because I got rid of it. The little automatic climate controller that was behind the dash there, it didn't work right and it was pissing me off, so I got rid of it. Remote mirrors, passenger side, driver's side, power windows, power locks. That works some of the time. There it goes. Courtesy lights. Comes up on there. It's got a map light, which I use a lot. There you go. Sometimes they're kind of bitchy. Top of the line Symphony Sound Cadillac ETR, which stands for electronically tuned receiver. This car did not come with that. I put that in there. It came with a regular ETR with no cassettes, but I need to have a cassette because that's how I listen to music, so I need it. Because the computer doesn't exist in the car, I had to do some modifications, such as this switch here, which controls transmission torque converter to lockup, which interestingly enough, if I flip this switch, it actually turns on the charge light for some reason, and if I turn the switch off, the light goes off. I don't know why. It must be drawing power from somewhere. But I got that switch down there. I got this valve here. What this is a throttle lock. All it does is take engine manifold vacuum and redirect it to what used to be the cruise control servo, locks the throttle at whatever speed I'm going at, and then when I depress the brake pedal, it just bleeds off vacuum pressure and takes off cruise control just like it would on a regular car. But that valve has to be closed. Otherwise, the second you take your foot off the brake, the car is just going to resume acceleration to wherever the throttle's at. But that I did for less than 50 bucks, and it didn't even take me that long to do it. So I have a separate video on that if you'd like to watch it, explaining how I did that, so you could do it to your car if you need cruise control and you don't want to spend a fortune on the aftermarket kit. You can just do that. And then this here coat hanger sticking out at the bottom of the dash is actually for my temperature control, because this here slider had a cable behind it. This cable would go to the cruise control. It would go to the Tempmatic automatic temperature control unit, which wasn't even a computer. It was just a vacuum servo gobbledygook piece of garbage. That would move a little potentiometer on that little servo, which would then look at the temperature, interior temperature of the car, and adjust the blend door to make it warmer or colder based on the suggestion that you gave it via this slider here. And it never worked right. It was always blowing hot air no matter what I did. And then it would get stuck right here. It wouldn't go any further than that. And you'd go all the way over here. It wouldn't go any further than that. You only had 70 to 80 degrees temperature adjustment, and it sucked. So I took the glove box out, took the bottom of the dash pad out, gutted that whole system. And because there was no way to get the cable from this to attach to the blend door, I just drilled a hole in the dash and stuck a coat hanger through it to open and close the blend door for hot and cold air. Right now it's pulled all the way out. That's full hot. That's full cold. There you go. There's temperature adjustment. This does nothing now. I just kind of adjust it to kind of where I feel like the air should be, so it gives me the illusion that it's working. I don't know. It visually appeases me, but it doesn't do anything. It's got rear defrost, electronic rear defrost. The digital clock that comes up on here instead of the analog one, that would be right there where that delete plate is. Power seats, which no longer work because some fuck at the exhaust repair shop broke it. But that's okay because I never adjust my seat once I did it the first time when I bought the car, so it's fine. Other than that, nothing really to it other than that. I mean, it's got these real comfortable, nice seats. I mean, you can't argue with padding. That is the most comfortable, well, the second most comfortable seat I've ever sat in. The most comfortable being the ones in my 86 Mercury Grand Marquis I used to have. These ones they're good, but they're not that good. Big ass glove box, plenty of space. I have this in here so my tapes don't slide around. That did not come with the car. But I got 16 freaking cassette tapes in this glove box. The only reason they ain't stacked higher is because when they're stacked higher, the tapes don't sit in there flush and they slide around, and then I'd open the door and then they would all fall out. So I've got it jam-packed with as many tapes as I can get. And if I didn't have that big-ass owner's manual in the bottom, I could probably get more tapes in there. But I like cassette tapes. That's what I listen to. I have over 400 cassette tapes. Yeah, as you can see, actually, here. Open, please. Power trunk release. Key has to be on. It's not going to do anything right now. And that's about it. It's a fairly loaded car. It's got tilt steering, wipers, your standard like 5-speed wipers or whatever. Technically, it's got this delay thing on here. It's your delay wipers. You get low, high, and delay. But these older ones aren't really as fine-tunable as the new cars are. So you've got like lowest low setting, medium, and then almost high, and then just your constant low. So it's only got 5 speeds really, plus mist, which is nice. I like the mist option. Because then you can just go like this once when there's a little bit of stuff on the windshield, and it'll just do it once and put the wipers down. You won't have to go like this into the on position and then go back into the off position, which is hard on the switch. It's hard on the motor. Nice padding on the doors. There's another look at the seats for you. It's in the back too. Nice padding on the backs of the seats as well. Doors back here. It's got a center armrest in the back, which is not common at all. So that's nice. Nice padded headliner. Sagging a little bit here, so I had to pin it back up. But this right here is nice and plush padded. Shag carpeting. Rear ashtrays. Power windows in the rear. Pretty nice car, entry-level luxury car at its finest right here. It does not have cornering lights. If it did, this here chrome would not be here. It would actually have a light right here, which would turn on with the blinkers, turn signals. And illuminate the path. I've had a lot of cars with that. I love that feature. Disappointing this one doesn't have it, but actually this blinker housing is huge, and when this light turns on, it illuminates the road better than you'd expect it to. So it's not actually the end of the world with this car, but if it didn't have that side light that was so bright, it would be a little annoying because I live out in the country here. And seeing this driveway at night when it's snowing in the wintertime is not easy. So it's nice to have that little light that kind of shows you the way so I don't have to overshot the driveway. But yeah, there you go. That's a walk around of the car. I probably missed a few things. I always miss things. It's got the opera lights. I always liked those. I've had a couple cars with those as well. Power antenna that no longer works, thank God. These power antennas on GMs suck. They're switched to the radio on-off switch. So you turn the radio on and the antenna comes up, you turn the radio off, antenna goes down. The reason I don't like that is because if it's winter and there's ice over this, when you go to listen to the radio, the antenna tries to power on, but there's ice over it, so it just sits there and runs and runs and runs and runs, and then the motor blows up, and then your antenna's stuck down. This one failed up, thankfully, so I don't have to worry about it. But GM really kind of fumbled on that one. I don't know why they did that. Ford was actually switched to a switch under the dash that said antenna, and you'd push the switch on to get the antenna to go up, and you'd push the switch off to get the antenna to go down. So if you just wanted to listen to a cassette tape, you turn the radio on and put your tape in, and the antenna wouldn't do anything. But then if you wanted to listen to the radio, you hit that button, and then the antenna would go up. So it gave you the opportunity to go out and check to make sure the antenna hole wasn't iced over before you wrecked it. And GMs aren't like that. That Cadillac over there still has a working power antenna, and it annoys me because I have to always make sure there ain't no blockage on that antenna cover before I turn the radio on, and it's stupid. So I don't like that feature. I think they should have switched it to a separate switch. But yeah, I think I'll end this video. You got to see a bit more of the car, in depth in the sunlight. I haven't really done a full in-depth walk around of this car before, so now you know everything you need to know about it. Somebody commented in the past about these mud flaps. They said they were grandpa mud flaps and that it makes the car look stupid. Well, let me tell you something. I drive this car in the winter, as I just said. I would like for the rust process to not be any more accelerated than it already is. So I put those mud flaps on there to make sure that this and this is kept to a minimum. Because if I didn't have that, then all this would be just plastered in salt. And it already is, but it would be worse. So I've got them on the front and the rear to kind of help prevent that from progressing any further than it needs to. But, so there you go. 1983 Oldsmobile 98 Regency. I forgot to mention anything about the engine or transmission. I'll just go over it quick here. It's got a 5.0 307 V8 gas in it. It does not have a diesel. I don't know how I feel about that. Originally, I was very happy it didn't have a diesel because they're not good engines. But I've put a lot of research into it since then, and I've seen them in real life now a couple times. I've looked at them. I've talked to people about them. They actually, if you get the DX block, which is 82 and newer, they're not actually that bad. They're still crappy, and they still blow head gaskets like crazy, but they get like 40 miles a gallon, which is insane. I mean, can you imagine 40 miles a gallon on this? I'm hardly getting 15 right now. 40 miles a gallon would be just, I mean, I don't even know. I'd be speechless. I'm speechless right now thinking about it. But it's not a diesel. It's a gas. It's also the V8, so it's the better engine. People don't like the V6. The base models had the 4.3 V6 in it. And people don't like those because they were gutless. They had like a 110 horsepower, and they didn't move the car very well. I don't think I would mind that. I don't care about going fast. I've never cared about going fast. It's not a priority of mine when I'm driving. Especially when I'm driving a car like this, I'm not going to be winning any races. I already know that. But a lot of people just say they weren't very good engines. So, and I've never seen one or heard of one. So I guess that proves true. This V8 has not been bad to me. It's been pretty good to me. Apart from the issues with the carburetor initially, that electronic carburetor. Once I got rid of all that electronic engine stuff, put a regular distributor in it, regular carburetor, Deleted the emission system. All that smog crap, air pump, EGR, all that's gone. It started being a lot better for me. It doesn't burn in the oil, which is a shock, because that car burns oil, and that's 10 years newer than this car. But it also has twice the mileage on it. This only has 63,000 miles, or I guess 64,000, just rolled over the other day. 64,000 original miles on it, which you'd never expect from the condition that it is in, but when you know the history of the car, it makes sense. It does not have the original 4-speed 204R transmission anymore. It was an overdrive transmission. I hate overdrive transmissions. They suck. They're unreliable. They are finicky as hell. They're really easy to blow up if you adjust the TV cable wrong, so they're not forgiving at all. And they're just a pain in the ass to deal with because they don't like to shift when you're on the gas. They only like to shift when you get off the gas. And if you're going up a hill, it'll just never shift. It just goes right into neutral and then you're stuck. So I got rid of it. I put in a Turbo 250, which is a light-duty 350. The only difference between that and a 350 is the second gear actuation. And I actually put in the new gear shift select out of the parts car I got my transmission out of. So it no longer has the overdrive gear shift select where it goes park, reverse, neutral, overdrive, drive, 2, 1. It now just has your basic PR and D 2, 1 that every car had before overdrive transmissions. So that's nice. And your door seals aren't actually in bad shape on this. It's got one crack right there. All the doors have this crack right here. But they seal all the way around. The only wind noise I actually get out of this car is because this weather strip right here was like flapping around in the wind over here when I bought the car. So I took my hand and I ripped it off. You can see where it ripped off right there. So I get some whistling wind noise right here up in the door when I'm driving, but that's such a small sacrifice to pay. Such a small thing to complain about versus the wind noise I get on some of my other cars. So I don't even notice it really. I'm sure a lot of people these days would be complaining, you know, up and down the road about it because it's loud and annoying and they don't like it, but it's not that big of a deal to me. I don't even notice it. But anyway, there you go. 1983 Oldsmobile 98 Regency with 1981 front end, since that matters to some people. Hope you enjoyed. I'll be releasing more of these because I don't have anything to work on, so I don't have anything to fix for you guys. See you in the next one.